What's up and welcome to Champions of Lore, a show all about the kick-ass stories behind some of Idle Champion's coolest campaigns and characters. Every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/CNE Games or later on your favorite podcast service, B. Dave Walters and Erin M. Evans talk about all the Idle Champion lore that's fun to know about. If you're here with us live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show. But until then, Erin, B. Dave, take it away.
Hi, I'm Erin M. Evans. I'm the author of the Brimstone Angels saga, which is a 6-book series set in the Forgotten Realms, featuring two of your favorite Idle Champions, Tieflings, Farida and Havilar. Also featuring Havilar, I play her in Idle Champions Presents The Unfair Seas, the final episode of which is today. I also play Cecilia on Dungeons Scrawlers on Wednesdays.
You know, that's it. You got everything. Like every time you're like, I forgot a thing. You ran the board. Book plug, stream plug. Boom. Yeah. B. Dave Walters. I say words about things. I do that. That thing you just saw me do. I do that everywhere. And yes, right now voting is still on for the final episode of The Unfair Seas.
Oh boy.
We have another 3-part series that is launching next week. So the show's not done. Just this particular narrative arc is done.
Is it still the rhyming versus pirates?
Oh, yeah.
It is now.
Rhyming versus pirates. It's on right in the voting goes over at noon, y'all. I would never say turn off this show. Keep the show on.
Yeah,
still listen to
100%.
us, but log into Idle Champions while you're listening to us and cast your votes.
It's
to watch Erin have to talk in rhymes or talk like a pirate.
I'm afraid everybody I saw was picking rhymes, and I think pirate would be difficult and silly, but also I'm like, oh my god, I have to rhyme on the fly.
There's no wrong answer.
I 100% voted for pirate. I'm not even gonna hide what I voted for. I need y'all talking like pirates.
I did not vote because I feel like my finger would be on the scale a bit. But, my vote would have been for pirate. Yeah, 100%. And then I'm other places doing other stuff. But that's the high notes. And then after this today, we'll be back at 4 Pacific today for part 3 of Idle Champions Presents, and it's kind of gonna be a little bit of a meat grinder that I've been doing.
Not even hiding. No bush to be beaten around. You were just like, they're probably gonna die.
It's too late. It's too late. They've come this far. It's too late. Yeah.
How's Codename gonna feel if you murder all their champions?
Death is a permeable boundary in D&D.
No, it's okay. You just go back to the last room.
Time is the gateway, death is the door. Yeah, that's it. I'm sure.
Well, okay.
Just die gloriously. That's the only thing.
I would actually love it if you all did TVK and they're like, all right, we're gonna go back to the last room, and you just rearrange where they are in the layout so you can do a new formation.
Sure.
I love it.
I intended to be a fairly challenging encounter, so we'll see, because you know how that goes. That you're like, ooh, today's the day. I got them, and then they just run something over, and they're like, so what are we gonna do for the next hour? And I'm like, there's a second monster that was hiding behind the first monster. Yeah, so we'll see. Die well, Havilar.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun for me.
Also, if you missed last week's episode, right after this show, CNE is gonna rebroadcast last week's episode, so you can catch it again. Yeah. Get
free from techno shenanigans. So we're no citywide outages in episode 2.
Yeah. It's important to note that there were none. This episode is Kobolds, Gnolls, and Vampires. Oh my! Yes, I did title it that, and yes, I did extend it so it could fit that whole thing. I thought before getting into how those are all interconnected, this would kind of be a fun time to talk about them individually. We've talked about Gnolls before. Mm-hmm. Went into pretty good depth with them.
People.
Yeah, but what about Kobolds? What all fun things do y'all know about Kobolds?
So one of my favorite things about Kobolds that I didn't realize is they're scaly kind. They're dragon related, which is the thing the Kobolds know. And Mighty Trovis. led a group of kobolds for a time that he
Really?
convinced was a dragon so that they would worship him. That is one of his stories that he'll tell you when he's drunk. So
I love it.
This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
What did he lead them to do?
Glory, I'm sure. You know, just,
I do have to say, Brian Cortijo
me
in
a
the
drink.
chat said called them dragon puppies.
they are dragon baby. Well, Vivka,
Oh
who
my
is
goodness.
in the Unfair Seas with us, she plays Black Viper. On Saturday, we're doing the Road to Gaxmore, also sponsored by Idle Champions. So hey, there you go, cross pollination. Okay, so Luke is with us also. Luke does Gary Con because his father was Gary Gygax, who's one of the co-creators of D&D. All this is happening because of him. So Vivka and I are playing in a game for Gary Con that's leading up to it. And Vivka is playing a kobold named Snacks.
Snacks.
I posted pictures of her costume, and it's amazing.
Yeah, might be my favorite thing ever. Yeah. Yep.
Oh my god,
It's,
that's so good.
Yep. And way back when for the OGs, Sex Carr played a kobold named Tiny Dragon, a kobold sorcerer that only referred to himself in the third person.
Oh my
as
God.
Tiny Dragon.
I
Which, yeah, all wins. There's no wrong way to kobold, folks.
that name made me think of a thing from one of my games. I had a kobold who got turned into a red dragon by a Sirak. Like, he's like, I want you to protect this area. You're only a red dragon if you stay in this area and protect it. And the
Whoa.
kobold's like, hell yeah. So it got turned into a dragon, but it still has the mind of a kobold. And so it was like, well, I need a cool dragon name. What dragon names are long? My name will be Fire Burn Smoke.
Well, you know, there's you bring that up. So way back in second edition time, because I have a bunch of D&D box sets even still. I'm looking over there because I can see them, but you can't.
Build a fort behind you.
It's true, exactly. Like, and then hide in it with my eyes.
That's where
there was
Trovis
one-
is.
That's it. Ever vigilant, always watching. It was called Dragon Mountain, and it was a higher level campaign. But what you found out as you got there, the dragon was dead, and the mountain had been taken over by kobolds. But they had rigged it all with traps, and it is almost all traps and misdirection the entire adventure. And again, it is just a slog, and you get so pissed off, and then you finally catch them, and like they're like CR 1/4, you know. So like you like hit one with an arrow, and it's dead instantly, and the rest run, and it's like just such a cat and mouse game all
Oh
through
my
this mountain. Yep.
I love that.
Sorry, Aaron, I said a lot of words. Apparently I'm very
Those were
passionate
wonderful
about
words.
kobolds.
I liked listening to them and thinking about how pissed off the kids I run D&D for if I made them do that, which is probably not a good reason to do it. Although teaching children to cope with frustration is an important lesson.
Yes.
And D&D can you help you with that?
Considering it enraged adults, I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. Yeah, it would also do the same. Yeah.
I love
I
it.
found I found an interesting kobold tidbit.
Hmm.
Looking back at so they at least some of them have domesticated dire weasels to be their guards and hunters, which I love the idea very much.
Everything
it-
about that sentence is great.
So the sentence that made me stop and go, I'm sorry, what? Is it goes, at some point in time, kobolds learned to domesticate dire weasels to serve them as guards and hunters. This resulted in lycanthropic kobold dire weasels.
What?
There's something
New plan for tonight's episode. I know there was a vote for infinite tentacles, but hear me out though. Kobold, dire weasel, lycanthropes. At least it would have gone even darker if they were like it resulted in a generation of half kobold.
Right? Like,
Yeah. But like, have you seen that picture? It won like all the wildlife awards a couple of years ago.
Oh
The
my
martin
God.
on the back of that woodpecker,
yes.
and everybody's like, the weasel's flying on the bird. It's like, no, that martin's about to kill that bird. It hasn't yet. But now it's I need the woodpecker with the weasel with the kobold.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it.
That's wow. Kobold Weasel lycanthropes. My
Uh-huh.
life is a lie. My life is a
Yep.
lie that I made it this far not knowing that one.
This whole show is derailed right now. Like I can't
Let's go cross it
function.
out. We'll go back to weird lycanthropes instead of weird vampires. It'll be great.
Porque no los dos.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
no.
true. We were talking about weird kobold lycanthropes. There's also weird kobold vampires.
See, but again, I have
This is the
several
weirdest
additional
monster
questions.
mash.
I'm like, are not all weasels dire weasels? You know, like I mean, and kobolds are pretty little, and so if they're like guard weasels but not mount weasels, you only need them so big. So again,
I feel like, I mean, I'm disappointed if they don't ride them. I feel
It's
like
true.
They must.
at least
if they
once.
Don't then
Yeah.
canon.
Cannon.
They do now.
That's true. Like what? Why leave that on the table?
Oh,
Yeah.
I actually typed in dire weasel, and the first image that comes up is a kobold in full armor riding a dire weasel.
Surrender.
You think
Give
the
up. You're defeated.
the kobolds that that are dire weasel lycanthropes turn into dire weasels and like frolic with their dire weasel guard mount things?
I
'Cause
mean,
I want that.
yeah.
Or imagine this kobold comes rolling into combat, riding on the back of this weasel, and like they get in there and they start throwing hands, and then the weasel stands up, and it too is a were kobold.
Well-
And you're like, what?
I don't know why my brain did this, because I was following along with that perfectly. This epic scene, this kobold running in, jumps off, got its spear, the weasel like rears up, but it suddenly looks like a weasel version of the snaky dude from Monsters Inc. Randall, where he's
Randall.
just suddenly he's like, ha.
See, you guys are joking. I'm doing all of this. This is going to happen. The Kobold Weasel Coalition.
A pirate boat shows
it
up,
hits-
weasels and kobolds as far as the eye can see.
It hits a sweet spot of like it sounds ridiculous, but also kind of terrifying. That I mean, perfect.
No, at low enough level, it would be a problem. Like, you know, I've said this multiple times that it's like, you know, low level D&D. People are like high level D&D is hard. No, low level D&D is hard. A kobold with a great axe will like clear you out on a crit. So now put it on the back of a weasel and lament. Yeah.
Yeah, now low level D&D, there's many a time that I've seen something of like, oh my god, that went south so fast.
A couple bad saves. Yeah, you're retired.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
Clark gets a crit on you. That's all for that level 1 character.
Mhm.
Okay. Go ahead.
I will just say this one other thing about kobolds. It's interesting, especially because this is kind of the way the game is shifted over time, and something that I'm always preaching about is remember, you know, intelligent creatures behave intelligently. So you can actually take small creatures, scalykin, because, you know, people always were like, oh, gnomes can be dangerous, but it was always like kobolds and goblins in particular always kind of got just like dismissed. Like these like low level creatures that are just for the lulz. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from having like those kobolds in Dragon Mountain, like these like brilliant guerrilla tactician kobolds, like the Ewoks in the forest,
Yes.
you know, that just like hit and run and everything just to like really stymie your players.
Oh my
You
god.
should do it.
Why have I never thought of doing Endor but with like goblins or kobolds?
It's my gift to you, Trevor.
Oh, it sounds awesome.
Evil Ewok.
And now dire weasels, dire wereweasels. Wait, are they wereweasels or well, I guess, yeah, they're wereweasels. Because I'm like, are they kobolds? But that'd be a weasel
Yeah, I
that got
guess.
bitten by a kobold. Which happened. We all know it happened.
Yeah.
But remember we talked about the polar bears. Now are there 2 creatures? Are there like born kobolds?
Oh my
that become
God.
Weasels and born weasels that become kobolds?
We always have to end up doing this. A frost giant that is a wereweasel. Dear God.
It would be a destroyer of worlds. I'm just saying.
What does happen if you have a lycanthrope that is bitten by a different lycanthrope?
Like yo dog
Like-
yo.
I was literally about to say
I heard you like werewolves, so I put a weasel in your wolf. So,
Do they like supersede each other, or do they?
Well,
like,
I like the idea that the
stack
different
and mess with
wares
it?
have like different things that set off the lycanthropy. So it's like it's a full moon,
Oh.
and he's like, "I am a werewolf," and it's like, "Oh crap, is that Orion's belt weasel?"
It's like
kind
whenever
of like a wolf weasel. It's like, don't look at me.
it's like whenever the moon's behind the clouds and you can't get to it, that's when the weasel comes out.
Yeah. But I also like the idea that it's the werewolf that has the wereweasel, not the person that has the werewolf. So it's got to be this certain thing of events that happens. So that
What if you just have to hit it with like vicious mockery and then it turns into Pauly Shore, like the weasel?
Okay, this is not related to D&D at all. I once saw Pauly Shore at Comic-Con. He was 5 feet away from me, and it took every fiber of my being not to go, Weasel!
Considering he probably heard it 1,300
I know,
times.
that's why I did do
you're
it.
good,
Because I'm like, I don't want to be that dude, but man, do I want to do it.
It's true. He made it like that, not us. Also, a not insignificant portion of our audience is like, who's Pauly Shore? We're like, you know what? You had to be there. You had to be there. Yep.
All right, so getting back from Pauly Shore to Kobolds.
He's Cobalt-esque.
So yeah, they are dragon-like, but they're not. They don't have that signifier.
No, they're Scalican.
Yeah, Scalican. And so again, like we talked about Gnolls, we went pretty in depth on them. So before getting connected, vampires. What fun stuff do we know about vampires?
I mean, they're not real and don't exist.
I was waiting to ask this question with B-Dave on the show.
Purely fictitious.
Yep.
It's
not real at all.
No. Yeah, vampirism takes on a very different form in D&D. Comes down from our good friend Stradvan Zarovich, all the way down, where they have some of the traditional folk flaws and weaknesses of vampires, but not all. And they just rolled out the Vampire bloodline, which is you had a vampire ancestor where you've still got some of your blade, like you're a daywalker, like you can go out in the sun and everything. Which is funny because I was working on a project and somebody was trying to make a character and I was like, oh, you should make a Vampire. And they were like, what's that? And I'm like, it's in D&D Beyond. And we go look and it's not there. And I'm like, it was there. I know it was there. And we can't find it. And then the bloodline comes out and it comes back. And I'm like, cool. And I was actually talking to Chris Perkins about it. I'm like, that used to be a thing. And he's like, we play tested it with Ravnica. It was. I was right. It was. But he was like, but it ended up not going into Ravnica and ended up getting retooled and came back like this. But I had about 2 weeks there of like, I know I saw this. It was a thing.
Did I step into an alternate dimension?
Exactly. The Sinbad played a genie, and Vampire were in D&D Beyond. Yeah.
I noticed looking specifically at the Gnoll Vampire and Kobold Vampire that Gnolls get a sort of the Gnoll Vampire gets kind of a special weird vampire. It's repulsed by perfume.
I saw that one.
Right? I'm like, that's odd, but I kind of love it.
Yeah, and I don't think the normal vampire has
excuse
that.
me. Hold on a second. Go back a step because we just sort of just like bopped right into this like it was no big deal. Did you say Vampire Knolls and Vampire Kobolds?
Yes, I did.
The connection is made clear.
See, here's the problem. This is when 90s power gamer in me comes out, and I'm like, Vampire Knoll WereWeasel. or Vampire Kobold WereWeasel. Yeah.
Wow. Porque no las dos.
Right? That it hungers for blood as well as flesh, as well as burrowing. Yeah.
Oh my! As well as burrowing.
As well as.
I love the idea of the sun comes out, this like half transformed Gnoll, and it's.
It'd be an elegant solution. It'd be an elegant solution. Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the vampire stat block. The normal one does not have repulsion to perfume. That's
I would be so confused if it did, to be honest, because I don't associate that at all with vampires.
That also seems like an easy way to just keep Strahd away from Irina. Just like, all right, Irina, come over.
Yeah, but it's got to be like one of those old-timey Victorian.
Yeah.
My one weakness, periwinkle.
Is that Old Spice? Oh!
Strahd is repulsed by Hex body spray.
I mean, who isn't?
Say he's the quintessential gentleman. That way, if you just hit just the broiest vampire hunter,
Oh my god!
Strahd, he's like,
Oh
Oh,
man,
no.
I love everything about that. I love it so much.
They also apparently get enraged by the sound of celestial spoken.
Yeah. So here's we'll cover this real quickly. The main connecting thing here is that there is a thing coming soon to the Idle Champions game that is a Gnoll vampire, which I'm not gonna lie. When I read in the email, I just thought it said Gnolls and vampires. I was like, okay,
Oh.
I guess that's connected somehow. And then I went back and read it and went Gnoll vampire.
yeah, that's not what it said. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, and yeah, that's and the Gnoll vampire didn't just stop there. It was like, but what if there were what if there were Kobold vampire spawn?
Also, what we didn't say is there is a subtype of kobold that are born with wings, so you could have a flying winged vampire kobold.
It's the Jersey Devil.
Just a flying fox, but it has a little spear. You're like, what's it? Yeah.
Are we allowed to say what this comes out of, or is that all spoilery?
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, it is part of the Rime of the Frost Maiden adventure, and the thing that one of the things I wanted to talk about before that was with vampires. So like you were saying, like Strahd, it descends from him and everything like that. And in the tabletop game, the way it works is there is their bite attack. It reduces their maximum HP to an amount equal to the necrotic damage taken, and the vampire regains hit points equal to that amount. The reduced direction, that's not an important part. If the target dies as the effect of reducing its hit points to a maximum of 0, the humanoid is slain. And if they are buried in the ground, they rise the following night as a vampire spawn. So we get more of the vampires. However, the Gnoll and the Kobold vampire do not have that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was one of the things that stood out to me about it, is that it seems that there isn't a threat of that, and that might just kind of be balancing. But like personally, I'm like, nah, I think it'd be hilarious. You got turned into a vampire by a Gnoll. Go ahead. Good.
Yeah, that's it's funny because like I said, there's so much of like the old traditional folkloric stuff around it, but it's like intermittently mixed. Like I think they knew that like a Gnoll's not gonna like take somebody and bury them and like wait like for till the next day all pensively, so it's almost like they walk the line between vampire and werewolf.
Yeah.
My question is, on a practical level, from an encounter standpoint, how's that really that much different than what the Gnoll was going to do anyway? It already was going to try and bite you.
Well, it does still have the maximum hit point reduction.
True. Which is problematic. Because it's draining the life out of you.
Yeah.
But it's all like matty and like dead looking. But like now in my mind, the Gnoll's still got like the big fur, got the big high collar thing on it. Like what was it? Is it Marvel? The Mandrake? Remember the Mandrake? He looked like a baboon, but he still had like the big like collar on. He's like very dramatic. He's like, I'm bound to suck your blood. I'm inexplicably a Transylvanian Gnoll. Also, maybe kind of sounds like Bane. Yeah, right. Right.
That's only if you cover your mouth.
That is true. I will be a Gnoll in a pod helmet.
Oh god.
It can turn into, unlike a regular Gnoll, it can turn into a cloud of mist or a large hyena.
Yep.
Which is kind of like a Gnoll crawling, but
like a super Gnoll.
The other cool thing is that if it has recently fed on blood, the mist has a crimson hue to it for an hour. It's almost just like, no, it's okay, I'm full.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how you know. That's when you're like, bing, done. Yeah.
I enjoy, just from a story perspective, the detail that the Gnoll vampire in this game made the kobold vampires to keep him company. And I'm so curious what that thought process looked like, because
there's actually some stuff on that.
Kobolds are very, very much pack creatures. Like they stick to the group. So like, yeah, they would not leave you if you like.
This is what it says. The Gnoll vampire, I can't pronounce that, has a small number of kobold vampire spawn minions to keep it company in the caves. It literally is just like, I need friends.
Which, like, what I find interesting, and I'm not arguing with it, but I'm like, what's the story? Because like we talked about Gnolls before, it was all about like strength and dominance, and if you can only get a bunch of kobolds.
So I guess what it is that
weak and crummy.
A Gnoll
maybe
pack.
He actually likes those.
Yeah,
those
that's true.
Kobolds.
The Gnoll pack like kind of went into Icewind Dale, and then like this was the other interesting thing. So we were talking about how people get turned into vampire and spawn one eye. That's not how the Gnoll got turned into. Like a vampire wasn't just like, oh, this would be hilarious. So apparently the way that it works is that this just sort of happens. This says, when a Gnoll's ravenous hunger is so great that it craves flesh and blood even after death, it can rise as a vampire to continue its feeding frenzy. So it's literally, this Gnoll's just like, I am so freaking hungry. When I die, I'm still hungry.
Super Gnoll.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. The other Gnolls just noped out though. You know, where he's like, I'm the Gnolliest Gnoll, and they're like,
that also like gives more weight to my theory that he actually just likes these kobolds, because why wouldn't he eat them?
Yeah,
maybe they taste bad.
Well,
also,
so
I mean,
we didn't just say this outright, but maybe you're gonna get to do battle with some of these creatures in Idle Champions.
Could be. Who knows?
Or maybe you're just gonna like sit down and have a chat.
Yeah.
Like, why do you like these kobolds? And then he'll tell you, and that's the event. No.
I was about to say, I don't even know what. Well, I mean, I was gonna say what constitutes a valid answer, but it is somewhat self-validating that you're like vampire kobolds, and he's like vampire kobolds, and you're like, oh, vampire kobold. Right. Yeah. That covers it.
But yeah, so these by the way, when you said super kobold, I imagined the scene from Secret of the Ooze, but it was a Gnoll instead of the super shredder. It's a super Gnoll!
It was Kevin Nash inside of that armor, by the way. That was big sexy Kevin Nash. Is the super shredder.
What?
Wow, we're just hitting all the
we are.
90s.
We're like, what if it was the 80s?
Yeah.
Pauly Shore, Secret of the Ooze, we're getting all in there. Oh my god. Oh yeah, so the things that normally hinder a vampire, the vampire weakness, forbiddance. The vampire can't enter a residence without an invitation from one of the occupants. Harmed by running water, that one's self-explanatory. Stake to the heart, also self-explanatory.
Go back a step.
Okay
Is it though?
Okay,
it's part like we just accept it, but you're like, yeah, but why though? Like, you know, like I can't cross running water. Oh, all right. All right. You know?
Well, I mean, like the effect of it. Yeah, why they can do it, I have no idea. I remember hearing at one point. Yeah, I feel like I knew at one point like what the thought process was of a vampire not being able to get near running water. And who knows, maybe somebody will shout it out in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, reaching back into my folkloric grab bag, and this is me theorizing, not by any means speaking with authority, because again, vampires don't exist. They're myth. I think they're so heavily connected to the land, which is why they can't cross the running water, because the running water is contrary to their connection to the land. I think.
Huh.
Yeah.
I found one answer, but I don't know if it's correct.
Is it stupid?
It's sort of like it feels like it's missing something.
Yeah.
So the idea being that running water generally is cleaner. Like if you're a person in olden times, as they say, collecting water, you're going for water that's quick moving, because it's less likely to harbor diseases, whereas stagnant water is going to have disease. So this is clean. So this is considered a holy thing, and so unholy things cannot cross running water. So witches and vampires and stuff like that cannot traditionally cross running water. That seems like it's like missing a piece to me. Like that's the kind of explanation where I feel like somebody kind of went, this sounds good.
Also seems like you'd get absolutely halted when it started raining. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna. Oh!
So Eric Jordan in the chat. Oh, hey, also Cypher of Tears here. Hey, Cypher of Tears.
Johnny.
Thanks for joining.
Hey,
Eric says, I believe it has to do with cleanliness. And Jay said, this continue on it from it. I've also seen that regular water is like a pure clean substance, essentially, so it is painful to a vampire. Okay, I can see where that's coming from.
So my argument retracted. It sounds like that we have several sources saying sounds right.
Then there's also the stake to the heart. This was a piercing weapon made of wood is driven into the vampire's heart while the vampire is incapacitated in its resting place. The vampire is paralyzed until the stake is removed. That's one of the interesting ones, is that the original lore was that like it didn't kill it. It just was like, you're here now.
Yeah. It incapacitates it.
Yeah.
Again, anchors it to the land.
Yeah.
Which that's Strahd's whole thing, is he's bound to the land. You know, he bled. Land. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there is the sunlight hypersensitivity. That's my description of it.
You sold it. Yeah, right. You sold it. Right.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. So the Vampire Knoll, this was all to get to here. The vampire weaknesses that it has is like Aaron was saying, enraged by celestial. If it hears words of celestial spoken, the vampire must try to attack the source of the spoken words on its next turn. If the words,
that's how I feel. That's how I feel about hipsters talking about IPA. Just like,
IPA.
Next turn.
Oh my god.
They can take it.
If you all are talking celestial around it, it doesn't know what to do, and so it is restrained.
Yeah, I love that. It is literally restrained in anger and confusion.
Again, why I can't go to some bars?
Circle of hipsters.
That's what I'm saying. So I can't go some places. I'm like, my rage entombs me. Yeah.
Then there's the repulsed by perfume. The vampire has disadvantage on melee attack rolls made against any creature wearing perfume or carrying an open container of it.
As one does.
Yeah. And then it also has the stake to the heart and sunlight hypersensitivity. Now,
here's the thing, the stake, I always love that they're like, it's vulnerable to a stake to the heart. I'm like, who isn't? That works 90% of the time. Like there's some oozes and constructs that'll walk it off, but just by and large, if like your opening move is stab someone in the chest, it's fairly effective. Yeah.
I can't find it. Oh, here it is. This is in the description part of it. Unlike normal vampires, Gnoll vampires don't have coffins where they rest, and they have no such places to return when their corporeal bodies are destroyed. They are undeterred by running water, and they can. This is my favorite thing. They can enter residences without invitation. I just love the idea of this Gnoll vampire coming. I would like to come in your house.
Yeah, exactly. I've misplaced my Cobalt. Can I come in and look for him, please? Which again, back to the 80s. You remember the land shark? Land shark.
Land shark.
Who is it? Just, if it's completely honest. Vampire Knoll, here to feast upon your flesh. Oh, all right.
My unsatiable hunger.
Well, since you said asked it so politely, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a Vampire Knoll in England.
See, now that's the sequel to An American Werewolf in London. Yeah. It's like now there's so many layers because I'm still stuck at the very extra Victorian vampires. Like powdered wig, burdened with ennui. Surrounded by Cobalt attendants.
Okay, I don't do this normally, chat.
I did that
Please, for the
Aaron.
love of God, whoever is out there good with Photoshop, can you take Gary Oldman in like the wig and the robe and just put a Gnoll face on him, please?
almost like a Gnoll with ennui is what goes on my coat of arms.
That's the House of 1,000 Heavens. Gnoll with ennui.
That's their the person that like
Rage,
greets them at the door.
hunger, boredom.
Oh my God, it is you.
You just need to add some other little thing that's like weird trivia.
like it's holding a quill pen or something, you know? Like it's like next to a piece of parchment, a Gnoll with ennui, pen and parchment. Rage, hunger, boredom. Incredible. We got there. I didn't know that's where we were going, but this is where we are.
Here we are.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I love it.
Curious, the stake to the heart still says for the Gnoll vampire that it has to be driven into the vampire's heart while the vampire is incapacitated in its resting place. It doesn't have a specific resting place. Does that mean you can do that to a Gnoll wherever it is?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I know I can rest anywhere, so I'm sure it can.
That means it passes.
Like,
it passes
Gnoll,
the
get
Bettis
up out of
test.
this cave! I can't stab you to the back of a stone floor.
Yeah. You know, honestly, if you think about it,
better yet, the adventurers show up and they just bring a nice, comfy couch. Huh?
and it's like,
Ah, you got me, dang it.
curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. Yeah, see, you know, but believe it or not, I said everyone's vulnerable to being stabbed through the heart, but if you think about it, the vampires are actually less vulnerable because it doesn't kill them. It just puts them on pause, you know? Like, they'll still live through it. They'll just live through it mad. Like,
You know, I always pictured that the vampire, just kind of felt limp, but now saying that, like, I love the pause button. Like, they're just like...
Frozen.
Yep, I like that. Bro, Jay put in the chat. I think resting place refers to a specific place in lore rather than just a couch. And I'm like, listen, Jay, it can
You
be.
said explicitly that the Gnoll vampire doesn't have one, though, didn't it? It said it doesn't have a coffin or a resting place. So, so for this one, it
We
seems
make
like
the lore. It'll be a
wherever,
couch.
wherever I may roam, but it's wherever, yeah, I may Gnoll, I suppose. Yeah.
Oh god.
And then like it's Cobalt attendants. Like, what do they even talk about in there? Like, it's like, could you just imagine? Like, they probably aren't too terribly chatty. Like, the Kobolds talk to each other. Like my sister had a beta fish, and like most fish, like they will continue growing to the size of their container. Like this beta got to be about this big, even though it started like this.
wow.
And she would give it feeder fish, right? And just every once in a while, it would let one live for company. Same thing. So, you know, the feeder fish start this big, but if they live, so eventually she had a beta that was about like this with like 3 goldfish that were deeply suspicious of the beta. Like, long since they wouldn't fit in his mouth, but they still would go nowhere near it. So you'd have the 3 goldfish over here and the 1 beta over here, and they'd always be moving in the tank. Like, I wonder if that's how it is with the Gnolls.
So you're not far off. The next sentence of the kobolds says the vampiric kobolds are terrified of the Gnoll vampire and can't understand its commands, so they give it a wide berth. These ravenous undead kobolds thirst for blood and tend to swarm foes at the same time.
Is it just like it's like a little TV show for him?
Yeah. Oh my god, yes.
You know, just sits on the couch and watches the kobolds like try to like figure out what the heck they should do. Should they get out? Should they not? What is kobold drama? Because I bet there's a lot of that.
They start putting on plays. Like one of them's got a wig on.
Also, it doesn't say that the kobolds don't have coffins.
Oh my
They have
god,
the
you're
same-
right.
the same
Well, it's
thing
because they're
about
vampire
the
spawn. Do
resting place.
vampire spawn have coffins?
It still has the stake to the heart while it's incapacitated in its resting place.
Oh.
And it doesn't explicitly say that it doesn't have a specific resting place.
Could you just imagine this like tiny, very shoddily built kobold coffin?
I know.
Right? Because like here's another thing. Like I have to admit, I haven't given kobolds their fair shake. I don't know a lot about kobold culture. What do kobolds do with their dead? Do they make coffins and bury them? Or do they like cremate them? Or do they eat them? Do they like leave them out for the vultures? There's lots of choices here. And
There is, like,
coffin
considering humans
feels-
do all of those, yeah.
Right? And coffin feels like the one I would bet least on. But then what happens if like something about vampirism requires a coffin and you're not from a culture that has coffins? Are you just like, why do I have this weird urge to build a box and put a pillow in it?
Just like a cat. You're like, I think okay, so let's walk this backwards, because now Erin and I do what we do, where we try and make this make sense. So kobolds they're dragonkin, so they're scaly kind. They are very heavily pack oriented, which is a form of family.
Oh god,
so
puppy pile.
So yeah, no, total cuddle puddle in the kobold, and then you hit it with fireball. 'Cause they deserve it. So I'm going to say, even though you're right, funerary practices range, but them being reptiles, I'm going to say they don't eat their dead, and I don't think they bury them either. I do think they would take their dead away from the rest of the group, have their moment, and then leave them there. I think is what they would do. I think they take them somewhere out. They'd have their and then leave them.
I would
be my vote.
also accept kobolds that do that and then come back later and bring the skulls back somewhere.
Yeah, keep the skulls. Yeah, keep the skulls.
Vampire kobold skulls.
I still love
That's
now. I
metal.
love the idea that like kobolds become vampires, like suddenly have this urge to like sleep in a box, and now that's their box. That's their box. For
But they all
vampire
sleep in the same box, like
Even
the six of them were like stacked up.
Steak.
Oh my god,
You can
just-
steak of kobold vampires like a shish kebab. You gotta catch them all.
that would be such a great trap for a like a cave system that just had like free puppies on it, but you open it, it's a bunch of sleeping vampire kobolds.
It's like, so here's the thing: can they transmit their kobold vampirism back to non-kobolds and non?
That's the thing.
Gnolls?
The stat block doesn't say anything about like turning other things into vampires. And actually, the original reason I went and looked at the vampire stat block was to see the wording on it, because I don't think that there is there might be in the monster manual. I didn't look at it. I think there is a vampirism section on there.
Oh, there is.
And because all the vampire thing says a humanoid slain in this way. So that regard, any humanoid can get turned into a vampire in that regard. But yeah, like, theoretically, this Gnoll turned these kobolds into vampire spawn.
Yeah.
So I think it's reasonable that it could.
See, also, I object to how much easier it is to catch lycanthropy than to catch vampirism, because it's almost like, what can't you become a lycanthrope of? Because now we've got polar bears, whales, weasels, tigers, boars, rats, wolves, bats. It's like almost any mammal you can become aware of.
Yeah.
And also, that's discriminatory. That's racist. Like, why can't you be a were crocodile?
No, I could have sworn I've seen that somewhere.
Well, in other games, like the Mokele and Bimbe are a whole thing and everything in the World of Darkness. But I mean, here, as far as I can think off the top of my head, all the lycanthropes I've seen were all mammalian creatures.
Yeah,
I think. No, there's the were-ravens. Although I guess birds are still warm-blooded. They're just not mammals.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about a were crocodile.
I think when I was thinking back, I'm like, that might have been my wife talking to me about Laurel K. Hamilton.
Yeah, sharks. Well, yeah, sharks. We ran into a were shark.
Yeah, were shark.
Yeah,
Yeah,
were
shark.
shark.
Yeah,
we ran into were sharks. So now it's like expressly a swerve on crocodiles. I'll double check. Maybe it's in there.
One of those like internet memes is like, "Thank you for all that not you vampires." Werewolves, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Again, I think that goes back to, even though lycanthropy's got its own lore, I think that goes back again to some of the earliest iterations of the game and why you have half things and half others. Like, remember, originally becoming an orc was almost like an infectious disease. In spreading your infestation out there, that I'm all like, somewhere there's just a weasel filled with hatred eyeing these kobolds like one day.
I just had this image in my head of like these kobolds at a cave moving around and this weasel looking through the bushes and then just
soon
just does like
especially because they were like, you end up with the were kobolds as a byproduct of domestication, so it is a weasel they trusted that had betrayed them. Or did it betray them, or was it an act of love that I'm like, I love you so much, I want you to be a weasel as well?
I don't know. I like the idea of it playing the long
blessed
game.
You.
Bless you. Okay. Let's take a look at what chat's been up to. And when I clicked over to the text doc, in all caps, Jay had put, "No, do not go fireball the Cobalt pile."
Do fireball the Cobalt pile.
Oh man,
your hate will make you powerful.
Okay, so the first one we got is from, oh god, this is Rex Verdi. I'm gonna go with that. Question: how do you play NPC vampires differently in D&D versus World of Darkness?
That's a for you question.
I would say you lean more into the Victorian Gothic tropes of it all. You don't have to. I mean, like anywhere, a vampire is the product of their time and place. So a vampire that lives in and around Waterdeep is going to behave differently than a vampire that lives in and around Barovia.
Yep.
But I'd say they very much more are the vampires than the more modern ones. At least that's the way I would play it. But I would also defer back to that same thing that I always say, that intelligent creatures are just that, and they should behave intelligently. So a vampiric pirate that has to spend all day under below decks, or personally, I don't know why vampires aren't like riding high in the Underdark. Like if I was a vampire and I found out about Menzo Baranzan, I'd be like
just imagine the vampire that finds it down there. It's just like, let me get this straight. Big open caves with glowing mushrooms that don't hurt me. All right, I could do this. Yeah.
The accursed day star never rises. Oh, all right. Yeah.
And sometimes dumb adventurers come down here and be my food. Oh man, yeah, the housing prices are great. I'm here.
I gotta say some drow loth cultist vampires would be pretty brutal.
Oh, I like that.
The other game I play in with Dungeon Scrawlers, the Westgate Irregulars, Westgate is full of corruption and gangs and things like that. So there is a gang, the Night Masks, who have over time become a lot of vampires. They didn't start out that way, but by now the vampires got in there, and once they're in there, but they operate almost entirely out of the sewers, which kind of connect down into the Underdark, which is another option, but it is grosser. The Underdark is weird and full of plenty of gross things. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But maybe they should just keep moving, and then we don't have to worry about them.
It's true. Just go down to Skullport. No negative repercussions.
Not at all. Star Chaser 43 says, why can't we have Havilar talk in pirate and rhyme?
Bet you won't. Bet you're scared.
Oh my god.
Let's see.
Then I just have to end every sentence with R, and then R rhymes with R, and it's a lot easier.
Yeah, there you go. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Valid. I know plenty of rappers that have built entire careers on that. So yeah.
Oh my god. Gar, but pirate kobolds make sense if you think about it. Their motto is to koboldly go where we have none have gone before.
Thank you all for tuning in. That's our show. Garwar's ruined everything. So we're just gonna.
Yep. There we go.
Nice.
Just gonna skedaddle.
Babylon Ranger 2261 says, yep, level 1 druid was a one shot by a swarm of rats in one game and a pack of kobold in another. That's always fun.
They're vicious little creatures.
Yep. Star Chaser 43 says, check me on this, okay? Pirate ship with dire weasels and kobolds. Just needs an eldritch blast below the waterline. But can they swim?
I was about to say, see, now you've ruined the plot of episode 3 tonight. Aaron busted me out on the were-sharks. Pirate ship full of weasel kobolds.
Robo
Do
Goblin.
weasel kobolds have infinite tentacles?
I was gonna say, is it like gremlins? They hit the water and start multiplying?
Really, that should be a D&D. By the way, this is again a complete aside. I hate how fast I can hear the title Gremlins and start singing the theme song from that movie. I don't know why I have this superpower, but I do. Robo Goblin 01 says, if I get bitten by both a were-owl and a were-bear, could I be a were-owl bear?
That is a wonderful question. I mean,
Live your dream.
Live your dream.
Do we know that's not how we got owlbears originally? Are we sure?
Oh. Now we're asking the big questions. By the way, happy birthday, RoboGoblin.
Happy birthday,
Happy
RoboGoblin.
birthday.
What even would a owlbear turn into? Does it turn into we just do it from a person to an
Yeah, like a
owlbear?
person that turned into a werebear and then got bit by a wereowl. So then the two curses merge and they turn into an owlbear. And then my argument is he goes to Wizard and says, "Fix this," and the Wizard looks at him and goes, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Wabble, wabble, wabble," and then he's stuck as an owlbear, and then that's where owlbears come from. I'm not sure why that adventure then managed to produce an entire species, but
There's reasons.
there's reasons.
Here's the question: do they lay eggs or do they give birth to live young? We've
Did
seen
we-
baby owlbears.
I could have sworn
but
we had
haven't
this
seen
conversation.
We haven't seen the intermediate step there.
I think they lay eggs. No, they do lay eggs. I know. Well, I know at least in Baldur's Gate 3 they lay eggs. I don't know if it's full canon. Larian at least did that. But
I'd guess
Are
they
they
lay
like-
eggs.
Are they like platypus eggs where they're kind of like squishy, or are they like bird eggs?
ooh,
Probably a little squishy. See, I feel like they
Are they
have
just
to
a
lay
little
eggs.
squishy?
a little
Because-
squishy.
Yeah, they're East Sunny side up because that's the kind of the only owl thing about an owl bear is owl face. Like the rest of it's pretty berry. So if it just gave birth to like bear babies, you're like a poser owl, you know? Yeah. So
Okay, before I go to this one, I'm going to interject my own question because it's one that's been popping into my head here and there, and then I keep forgetting about it. So at this point, everyone at least has tried Skyrim at least once because it's literally everywhere. But in their lore, vampirism or lycanthropy kind of supersedes each other, and like it's like, oh, you lose the vampirism and now you're a werewolf. And I know that's kind of like game wise.
What's
Like-
the... Oh,
Yeah.
you talk and I'll see if I can find the reference I'm trying to make.
So
Well,
like how would you play that in D&D? Like if someone did have lycanthropy and then like got bit by a vampire and then that happened to
theoretically I would allow both because again, nowhere is it written that you cannot be afflicted by both conditions.
Mhm.
I would say the reason why you run into that in some mythos, the reason why you can't be both is because a vampire is dead. A lycanthrope is more alive. They're more powerfully vibrant in their existence, and that is why those two states cannot both exist. In this canon, nowhere does it say that, you know. So I would say you could have it. I mean, yeah personally.
So if you have one and then you contract the other, does it cure that one? Can you then?
I would say not in D&D. Yes, in
Yes.
Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls mythos, what he's talking about, I would
Yeah.
say no to D&D personally.
Okay, so the example I was going to make is that for a period, people found that you could cure syphilis by contracting malaria because you would get a fever so high that it would kill the syphilis. And so this was pyrotherapy was like an actual thing. So in this case,
Oh, wow.
vampirism is malaria and lycanthropy. is,
Oh, wow.
syphilis.
It's playing the game on hard mode, by the way.
This is what
I
Aaron,
know it's little bonkers, but you know,
I would take my
Syphilis
chances
will
with
kill you
malaria over
eventually.
syphilis. Yeah, I would take my chances with malaria over syphilis, 100%. Like there's some tricky complications that come with syphilis. I would say Google it, maybe don't, maybe don't.
I
It's
can't
a
wait to
gnarly
talk to my
disease.
friends later, and they're like, "What'd you talk about on your D&D show today? Would you want malaria or syphilis?"
Well, while we're doing that, syphilis comes from the New World, and it was taken back to Europe by the conquistadors and people that came here that were imposing themselves on the locals, and they were like, "Take this back to England." That's why it like just tore through there because there was like no resistances or anything of the sort. You know, they were very vulnerable to it. Yeah.
The last one I'm gonna read here before we start winding down the show is from Pale_Master.
You sure you don't want to talk some more about syphilis?
I
We can
was
do
gonna
that.
say I also had
Oh.
a bonkers owlbear.
Oh, let's hear it.
Yeah.
You know how there's like in South Africa, there are great white sharks that will like breach and jump out of the
Yeah.
water to grab. I really want there to be somewhere in the Forgotten Realms a population of owlbears that has learned to like jump out of trees and glide, land on things. Because they're thinking like the other thing is that often in the art they've got like little sort of vestigially wings.
Yeah.
But what if some of them have just taken to jumping out of trees and like you've got some sort of weird
Oh my god.
bottleneck evolution that they can glide
So-
a little?
I'm gonna go with you on this because the reason why those sharks breach is they've hit the seals so hard.
Mhm.
Like they're coming with such speed, they hit a 200-pound seal and blast it out of the water. So arguably, any owlbear that's an ambush predator can just wily coyote you up. And
It's like it's a learned behavior. Like, well, okay, is that how it works? Go real hard.
I love the idea of like adventurers climbing a tree to get away from an owlbear, and it just looks down and goes lol, and just boom, 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 boom.
I mean, it makes sense though because owls
water.
are swooping predators, and you see bears will like collapse in burrows of things. So you have just the next logical thing is to go up and be like Leroy Jenkins, yeah, and get owlbeared.
Okay, the last one says 3 vampire kobolds spawn in a trench coat. I am Count Koboldula.
It's my one regret is I didn't get to fit human into this story.
Oh god,
Yet.
yet. There's still time.
That is true.
So that is
Count
all the
Kobold,
time for lore we have today. Erin, B-Dave, where can people find you, and what awesome things are you working on?
You got it. You nailed it all the first time, man. Let's see if you can go 2 for 2.
You can find me on Twitter at Erin M. Evans. You can catch me tonight on Champions of Lore, the end of the Unfair Seas, playing Havilar, my tiefling fighter. You can also watch me on Wednesdays on twitch.tv/Dungeon Scrawlers, where I play Cecilia, who's definitely not a warlock. And again, I think we're gonna. I think this week we are going after those vampires in the sewer.
Good luck. Bring your perfume.
Right? Like, oh god, I hope the DM's not watching this. He's like, you know what? Gnoll vampires.
I could see him doing that.
I'll text him. You
Eric,
got
don't answer your phone.
3 minutes to vote if you haven't yet. Idle Champions for how it's just for it's you're doing it for Erin.
Yeah, you are.
Please help Erin.
You are.
Of rhymes or piracy. Yes. So you got time. Yeah. B-Dave Walters.
Did we try? Did we do neither? Or oh no,
Oh,
never
did you
mind.
both?
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
No,
You
they
didn't
did
say it.
both. There is no neither. There is no mercy. Yeah. My all-time favorite Palpatine moments. Yeah, all over the place. At B-Dave Walters, bunch of stuff's happening next week. 3 new things all start next week, so don't even try and keep up with it. But do apparently watch episode 2 of The Unfair Seas coming up right after Hus Meow, and at 4 live for episode 3, where again our heroes are gonna have a silky smooth and uneventful shopping episode. It's gonna be fine. Yeah.
If they're shopping for tentacles.
What? Oh my god! I don't want to know what it has to eat to maintain infinite.
But
You're
Sure,
gonna
high
find
fiber.
out what it has to. You're gonna find out what it has to eat to maintain that biomass. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, it's gonna be us. It's gonna be us. Isn't it?
Spoiler alert! You. Yeah.
You can find me
What if
on.
I? I have my
oh.
box. What if I just make infinite sandwiches? Will it go away?
You know. If you
Don't tell him
attempt
your
to-
plans.
We've established they're very good sandwiches.
They are. They are.
To be fair, I don't think Havilar would necessarily think of that. I think she'd be like, right, monster, and time for the glaive.
If that plan works, you canonically have to call that sandwich Kraken's bait.
Mhm.
You can find me on the Difficulty Class podcast every Friday and on Twitter at the Treavor. There's an A hiding in there, as well as on Champions of Psychology every Tuesday here on twitch.tv/CNE Games at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you to Jay for moderating in the chat, as always, and thank you to Codename Entertainment for letting us talk about some D&D If you missed any part of today's show, you can listen to it later on your favorite podcast service at 2 p.m. And for podcast listeners, if you have any suggestions for things you might want to hear us talk about, you can send those into championsoflore@codenameentertainment.com. I don't know why I addressed that only to the listeners. If you're here right now, you can do that as well.
Give us fun ideas.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't say Treavor the parrot did make his human didn't make it, but Treavor the parrot did.
I gotta be honest. I freaked out real hard when you said that. And then I was like, I'm here.
True. Little pirate parrot.
I was so happy. People kept putting the parrot in the chat. It made me happy. So a couple of things before we go. There's a few scheduling things going on this week. So once again, Unfair Seas Part 3 tonight at 4 p.m. But right now, as soon as this stream ends, which is going over a little bit, sorry about that, Dylan, they're going to rebroadcast last week's episode. Rebroadcasts are now going to be a thing on this channel. So there's going to be a rebroadcast of Idle Champions Presents Mondays at 12 p.m. There's going to be a rebroadcast of this show, Champions of Lore, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. And there will be a rebroadcast of Mars's Guiding Hand on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. So if you need some thing to watch or just have it on in the background in the mornings, the rebroadcasts are there for you to enjoy, and you can hear all of us making ridiculous lore and Erin laughing joyously.
The wait doesn't start until I hear Erin laughing. That's it. Yeah.
100%. Also, speaking of Erin is going to be on Idle Champions
right.
Idle Insights this Thursday. I got you.
Thank you for catching me.
Yeah. So Thursday at 1 p.m. Erin will be on Idle Insights with Dylan. And tomorrow for Bardic Inspiration, Luke Gygax will be on as they make a song about Melf.
Hey.
Yeah. So hope you all join in for that. If you are live with us right now, again, do not forget 4 p.m. Unfair Seas Part 3. It's going to be a blast. Be there for it. And if you're not live with us right now and are listening, we would love to see you here next week in the chat, because it is a blast. You should see all the conversations that are going through there that we can't even talk about because we don't have the time. But thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Until next week, Champions out.